What's up, dog? It's your boy Joseph with Monkastery Studios, and today in this video, we're gonna talk about more hot, controversial stuff. Yes! A great way to get more death threats, and I haven't got any death threats yet. We're talking about Reach Records and especially Lecrae inside of this video. There is a big controversy over these two figures. For those of you who are not familiar with it, I'll give you a quick run over.
Hey, go ahead and doubt us. What you know about us? And we ain't gotta follow, then we take another route.
So Reach Records is a label group of, they don't like to call them Christian rappers because they don't want to put themselves in a box and be unrelatable to anyone who's not a Christian necessarily. And I used to hate people who said that. They'd be like, I'm not a Christian rapper. I'd be like, what are you? Ashamed of your Christian faith? I used to be one of those billboard sign holding, condemning Christians. And there's plenty of those still around Christian music. Christian music is such, it's a way to get burned and it's a way to get people to hate you, talking about it.
How dare you express your opinion about Christian music?
So let's talk about it. I love being controversial. I love getting hate. It makes me feel like I actually stand for something. So basically, it's a label group of all these Christians who create rap music that is uplifting, moral. A lot of it talks about God, some of it does, some of it doesn't. But it's a highly skilled group of different rappers. But you got Tedashii is really good. KB, he's been blowing up lately. Andy Mineo, Trip Lee, those are the big ones. Recent ones, you got 1K Few, What Up RG. There's a new female artist they signed recently. I think her name is Wande or something like that. There is Gavi. I mean, there's other ones. Like if I missed you, you can send me a death threat. They're all highly skilled people. But there's a big controversy over these people. So inside of this video, we're going to be talking about this. And what I really want to do with this video is just open up some discussion among Christians. And I'm not just talking about people yelling and screaming at each other, because I go through the comment sections on Christian music and people are yelling and screaming at each other. It's stupid. You guys are acting like little children. I mean, I used to be like that too, so I can't say anything. But people, when it comes to Christian music and you want to talk about your opinions on it, that is one of the quickest ways to get so hated. And I'm sure if any of the artists or people of Reach Records see this video, they will agree with me. Like literally, if you take a stand on either side of the fence when it comes to Christian music or anything that looks like Christian music, you're gonna get hate. Because people are just stupid when it comes to this stuff. Talk about it reasonably in the comments. If you say stupid, hateful stuff, your comment might get deleted. Get roasted. Alright, so what's the whole controversy? There's a lot of things that create the controversy. So in this side of this video, I'm gonna be talking about what are some of the mistakes that Lecrae has made an artist. What are some of the things he's done right? So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. I didn't really study Lecrae's music and his testimony and his beliefs before making this video. I mean, I did right before making this video, but for like months before this, I didn't really know that much about Lecrae. So I jumped to conclusions and I was like, Lecrae is backsliding. He's leaving his faith. He's not a Christian anymore. There's a lot of people who are saying that about him, and there's several main reasons, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And so I used to be on that whole bandwagon with everyone was like, Lecrae's not a Christian anymore. But then I began to study Lecrae and study his whole philosophy, and I really found that almost everything he stands for, he is so well thought out and he's got a reason for being where he is. And so we're gonna talk about that. That doesn't mean I agree with everything. He's made some big mistakes. But anytime you get a platform as big as Lecrae has, how can you not but make a few mistakes? So I'm not here to pound anybody. I'm not here to condemn anybody. I'm just here to give helpful criticism, praise where it's due, and to open up discussion. So Lecrae is controversial for a lot of different reasons. The main reason he's controversial is really just because he used to be inside of this box called CHH, which is Christian hip hop. It's Christians who write hip hop music. And so there is this bubble of CHH where basically all these people who listen to CHH or make CHH, it's almost like they have a constitution of CHH and say, this is what your rap music should sound like. And so for a while, Lecrae was part of this thing called CHH. And eventually he decided he wanted to leave CHH. And he started telling people, I'm not a Christian rapper. And so a lot of people jumped off the deep end. They're like, what do you mean you're not a Christian rapper? You're backsliding, blah, blah, blah. And so that's where a lot of the hate for Lecrae comes from. There's a lot of reasons. For example, Lecrae, I don't know if this is true or not, but Lecrae to me seems like the type of guy who really doesn't want to be the guy who gets all the straight on camera attention. He seems more like the type of guy who's okay with taking the background, no pun intended on his song. He's okay with taking the background and kind of going low key a little bit, but as a Christian rapper, he was literally getting all the attention, all the focus. And so I figured one of the reasons is he wanted to get out of CHH so that, you know, he could be just another rapper again instead of being God's gift to CHH. So maybe that was part of the reason. Another big reason is as a CHH rapper, he really was getting attention from all the wrong people. And I don't want to say that in the wrong way, but as a Christian rapper, Lecrae was getting tours, he was getting concerts, but he wasn't really reaching the people that he wanted to reach. In CHH, there's this bubble of CHH listeners. Most of them are already Christians already. Most of them know all the Christian rappers. Most of them go to church every Sunday. And Lecrae was like, you know, I don't want to be confined to just ministering to these people. I want to minister to the people that can relate with what I grew up in. Lecrae grew up in a pretty rough life. He grew up in the hood. He had a really broken childhood. And so, as a CHH artist, he wasn't really reaching this type of people. And so he said, you know, I want to go mainstream because the only type of people I'm really impacting are these people who are already Christians. In a lot of cases, I'll say from my perspective, a lot of these CHH people are the rich white people who go to mega churches and all that stuff, but whatever. He didn't want to be inside of a bubble, and I will tell you, I can't really blame him. I used to hate how he was like, I'm leaving CHH. I'm like, I wanted to condemn him. I want to say, Lecrae, you're horrible. Like all the other dogmatic people. But at the end of the day, I've listened to Christian music for a long time. Literally for 8 years, I've been listening to Christian music, and I will tell you, it's great. I love it, but it's so generic. It literally, you listen to one Christian song, it's like you've heard 20,000 of them. It's because there just seems to be this bubble, this box, this constitution of CCM and CHH of this is how every Christian rap song and Christian gospel song should sound like. And I will tell you, I don't like the lack of originality inside of Christian music. And I really think to blame is a lot of the Christian radio stations because they only play the songs that meet their specific criteria. And it just seems to me like a lot of people inside of Christianity do not encourage creativity enough. People who want to be out of the box. People who want to talk about something a little controversial. So Lecrae was like, you know, I'm trying to tell my story. I'm trying to be myself, and they don't like that. So you know what, forget it, I'm gonna go to mainstream. So that's the whole controversy. And I will tell you, most of the things that Lecrae stands for, I support him on. I used to not, but after I understand where he stands, I support him on most of where he stands. So here's what I don't agree with Lecrae on. One of the biggest things that I disagree with Lecrae on, and I'll explain why, is his collaboration with secular artists. You guys knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. I see steam coming out of your ears. Your eyes turned hell red. Am I allowed to say that? I know there's always people screaming at the screen, but Jesus hung out with the sinners. I knew that was coming too. Okay, so allow me to give a little explanation of where I stand on this issue. Jesus hung out with the sinners. And I think what Lecrae is doing is he's reaching out to the mainstream, and he's actually established friendships with a lot of mainstream and secular rappers. Some people hate him for it. I love it that he's doing that. I think it's great that he's doing that. He's friends with Kendrick Lamar, he's friends with all these other people in the industry. I think that's amazing. For Jesus, there was nobody too dirty to hang out with. The only people Jesus didn't seem to want to hang out with were the hyper-religious people, and that's ironic. And that's how Jesus was. So that's not what I'm criticizing Lecrae for. Not for his friendships with the world. Because when people say that's how Jesus was, they're right. But there's a difference. This is the point, if there's any point you get out of this video, this is the point that I want to establish. And this is the one thing people follow and idolize Lecrae, and a lot of people are going to imitate his decisions. That's why I want to point out what I believe is one of Lecrae's biggest mistakes. That is this. There's a difference between friendship and ministry. I could be a pastor, and I could be friends with whores and prostitutes, but there's a difference between being friends with them and then saying, hey, you want to come on my pulpit on Sunday morning and preach a sermon? There's a big difference between ministry and friendship. With all the people Jesus hung out with, he never took any of these sinners and told them, go save the lost. And so, you might be wondering, what am I even talking about? Lecrae's not doing that. But when Lecrae collaborates with secular artists, he's literally putting them on their song and he's saying, help me preach the gospel. That is my biggest problem with Lecrae. He's literally telling a secular mainstream artist help me preach the gospel. But he's collaborated with some different artists like Ty Dolla $ign, not a very Christian guy. And so what's the problem with this? Number one, he's telling a secular artist, help me preach the gospel. And then the number two thing is, he's leading people to go listen to these artists' music. Because when you collaborate with an artist, not completely, but partially, you're putting a stamp of approval on that person's music. And so you're literally saying, go check out this other artist and listen to their music. And so that's dangerous if you're collaborating with an artist that creates music that's not good and not wholesome, because you're leading people to their music. And so that's the reason I disagree with a lot of Lecrae's collaborations. I think he should be friends with all these people. Yes, you know, he's done a lot of production with secular artists. Even that's different, except for in the case of Zaytoven. He collaborated with Zaytoven. I don't really agree with that, because he literally, every single song, he had to put the name Zaytoven, so that was still leading people to Zaytoven's music. But if you don't have to necessarily credit the artist in the title, that might be a different case. But then again, usually you're gonna have their name in the credits, so there's still a lot of debate over that too. But that's my biggest problem. And so I understand the frustration that doesn't leave a lot of artists to rap with outside of Reach Records. And that's probably why Reach Records collaborates so much within itself, because where are all the other good rappers? They're not really anywhere. So I understand the frustration, but I also don't think that's a good stance to be taken. That's an open door for conversation. Just keep the conversation reasonable. But Reach Records as a whole, and even for Lecrae as an artist, you can see a big change in the type of music that they create. You listen to a song from Reach Records 8 or 9 years old, listen to a song today. There's a big difference. And so I will tell you, I don't really like the change that they've made musically. Now that's just me as an individual. Lecrae as an artist cannot say, oh, Joseph doesn't like it, I have to make the type of music Joseph wants. No, these artists have to make the type of music that they want to make. They don't even have to make it for a select little group of these people who are gonna yell and scream if they don't. They should make the type of music they want to. But I'm gonna tell my preference, and I feel like a lot of people are going to agree with me. So listening to a lot of the older Reach Records music, and then nowadays I see several key differences. And some of the key differences, number one, I see a big lyrical difference. In the past, it seems to me like Reach Records artists seem to rap a lot more from the heart. They seem to be a lot more emotional inside of their lyrics and their music, versus now, they seem to rap from their head. They seem to try to think more logical. They seem to be trying to come up with clever little cliches or clever little quotes inside of their songs. Listening to their music now sounds like I'm just listening to clever wordplay rather than someone actually rapping from their heart. You see, when I was younger, I started listening to NF as an artist, and I was like, wow, this guy's so emotional. So I grew to appreciate emotion inside of music. Most Reach Records music nowadays really doesn't seem like it has the emotion in it. But Lecrae's old music, whether or not he was rapping about his life, just seemed so much more raw and emotional. It seemed like Lecrae was just pouring out from his heart, versus now, maybe I'm wrong, and you don't see it so much in Lecrae as much as the other artists, but even Lecrae, it seems more like he's rapping from his head versus his heart. The other big difference is Lecrae used to be a lot more of an aggressive artist. So this is another thing, I know Lecrae's talked about this extensively. So I'm not coming in and talking about this ignorantly without knowing where Lecrae stands. Now when I say aggressively, I'm talking about aggressive in two ways. First of all, aggressive in the musical style, and secondly, aggressive in the lyrics. So what I mean is, Lecrae used to be a lot more in your face with theology and dogmatic whatever. So a great example is Lecrae's song, Go Hard. Now this is an example of Lecrae's old style and how he used to write music. And I understand why he changed from making that type of music. But Go Hard is one of the most aggressive songs Lecrae has ever made. So lyrically, it's really aggressive. It's really in your face. And to me, I appreciate that. I really like aggressive rap. Rap that's not afraid to step on your toes a little bit. Rap is overall an aggressive music style and should be used aggressively. And so really listening to the song Go Hard, I'm like, yes, this is what rap should be, but maybe that's just my personal preferences, but it seems to me like the most aggressive rappers are the ones that grow the fastest. And so listening to Go Hard, that's an example of Lecrae's old style. He's talking about you gotta get real with your relationship with Jesus. You gotta work for God. You can't be half-hearted in this. You know, this kind of the message of Go Hard. And so musically, it's a lot more aggressive too. The music hits you a lot heavier. You know, overall, that's kind of what Reach Records used to be. It used to be a lot more aggressive musically and lyrically. Other examples would be Background, would be 100 by KB. You know, those are examples Andy Mineo, You Can't Stop Me. Those are examples of some of the Reach Records aggressive songs. But now, it just seems to me, and I might be wrong, that they're trying to be less confrontational so they can relate with more people. And I feel like that has hurt them as a label group. I don't know what all the rest of the world likes. You can tell me if you like the new style. It seems to me like they've shifted a lot more towards the mumble rap generation. And not all their songs sound like mumble rap, but it seems like they've shifted towards the mumble rap generation. And for me personally, that's not my style, and I feel like it's overall hurt them as a label group. So that's one of the big shifts that they've taken. I mean, a great example, go listen to some of Lecrae's old music. Listen to the first 10 seconds. And you'll see just how aggressive his old music was. Within 10 seconds, you would usually know what he's talking about. But now listen to his modern music, 10 seconds, you don't really have a picture of what's going on. That's just an example of how aggressive his old music was versus how it is now. Anyway, that's a whole lot of talking, a whole lot of mumbo jumbo. I've literally got, I mean, look at all these notes. It's like notes after notes after notes I've taken listening to Lecrae's interviews, his music. Nah, I might be wrong with this. I'll leave with one final point, and then we'll conclude the video. It just seems to me, and I could be wrong, I don't mean this as criticism in the least, but it seems to me like Lecrae is a little too focused on getting the praise of man. And I know that's a tender point for Lecrae. I don't want to rub it in because growing up, he didn't have a dad, and he really wondered why wasn't his dad there for him. And so that kind of caused him growing up to want approval of others. He even said that in his book, Unashamed. Because I felt like my dad valued drugs more than having me as a son, I constantly wrestled with my self-worth and craved the approval of others. That's on page 16. And so I feel he struggles with desiring the acceptance of the world. And so whenever your focus becomes desiring approval of man, that can begin to distract you from your desire, ultimately, for God to approve and be proud of what you're doing. And I'm not saying that Lecrae is like that. I just seem to sense that a little bit listening to some of his recent music as he's gotten closer to mainstream. It seems like he's trying more to fit in with mainstream and get their approval. When that becomes what drives you, ultimately it doesn't matter how hard you try to do the right thing, you're gonna start going downhill. So I don't really want to rub that in, but that's a lot of mumbo jumbo. This has been a long video. Probably one of my longest videos ever. Congrats to you guys who stuck to the end. I want to see what all of you guys think, so give me some feedback. Start some conversation in the comments. This is a hot topic. I'll probably be replying to a lot of comments on this video. But I feel like it's some stuff that needs to be talked about. I want to finish with this challenge. Lecrae, if you see this video, I would love to meet with you and talk with you. If you respond to this video, I will literally buy a plane ticket, fly down to Atlanta or wherever it is that you live now, and I will meet with you in person. I would love to talk about all the things that we talk about in this video, if anything, to understand even deeper where you are and why you believe what you believe. So if you see this video, take me up on that offer. So anyway guys, stay tuned on this channel. Got content coming up, more mumbo jumbo, and more worthless stuff to watch. With that, time for a napo. That or editing this video, probably editing this video.